Like, I'm overly competitive. I injured myself running laps around my cottage celebrating a Trivial Pursuit win over my mother-in-law. It's a true story.
When people come to my house and eat dinner, and then afterwards we're like, now what do we do? Sitting around and talking is boring. Play a board game.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Ultrasonic Film. As always, I'm your host, James, talking about movies, and more movies. I have a very special guest on the show right now, Simon Ennis. Welcome to Ultrasonic Film.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. We're going to be talking about your new film, The Hobby, Tales from the Tabletop. I got an opportunity to see it. I never realized, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but I never realized how much of a following board games have until I actually watched the film. Is this a common reaction that you're getting?
Absolutely. And that was the reaction I had about 7.5 years ago when I first discovered the hobby, and my mind was completely blown. I thought it was all Sorry and Monopoly, and I didn't realize that there was this huge, absolutely massive and beautiful subculture, and that there were these games that were so incredibly sophisticated and fun and basically as creative as any movie or album or piece of art.
And I got to ask you, of course, I noticed how you filmed a lot of the conventions, taking in the sheer amount of crowds that you were shooting at the conventions. Was this a conscious effort on your part to show how many people are taking this in?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time I went to Gen Con, which is the biggest board game convention in North America, and that's the one that you see at the beginning of the film, it's in Indianapolis. The first time I went there, I was just sort of hobby curious. I wasn't deeply a board gamer, and I walked into this place with 90,000 people obsessed with all these games that I had never heard of, except for maybe, Settlers of Catan or something, but like all these games I'd never heard of. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just like knocked right on my ass.
Feeling both nervous and excited.
I am very competitive.
I heard one of them actually played 100 games in preparation.
Things got a little serious now.
You made a play that was illegal.
The way he blocked me unnecessarily.
I knew that most people didn't know that this whole world existed, and it's so huge and it's so deep and it's so exciting. So just that moment when they first opened the doors and let the people flood into Gen Con on the opening day is, I mean, it's like, the parting of the Red Sea or something. It feels like this almost like biblical.
I am a board game designer. It starts a much more interesting conversation than I'm a health policy analyst.
Can I get a quick picture?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a cool kind of famous. A few thousand people in the world know me, and they're all here.
I am a complete newbie to this. The day before my Kickstarter goes live. Oh, lordy, this is going to be an interesting couple of months.
One particular dynamic that I really enjoyed is the startup games, where people are doing craft games themselves and then have to sell them and get the word out on them, because, of course, it's a whole other culture that you don't think about when you think about board games.
Yeah, for sure. The indie board gaming. Yeah. So I follow three very big designers in the board game world, like they're board game superstars. And then I also wanted to follow one designer who's just like a first timer who is, like you say, kind of doing their own indie thing, just trying to sell 100 copies of a new game on Kickstarter, because that's so much of a culture like this. The culture of the board game hobby is just regular people. Now, some of them have made it their careers. Some of them are very famous within it, be they designers or publishers or influencers, but also the general fans kind of get into it in their own way. They don't just take it in, but they also are extremely creative and sell it. Yeah, sell 100 copies on Kickstarter. And I just love the idea that somebody had such a very modest goal, but was working so hard and basically taking on all the stress of a giant project, making a handcrafted game that, just trying to sell 100 copies for $20 each.
Like, I'm overly competitive. I injured myself running laps around my cottage celebrating a Trivial Pursuit win over my mother-in-law. It's a true story.
Fiction concentrates the beauty of storytelling, and games concentrate the beauty of practical action. If games are all there is to do in utopia, they must be the meaning of life.
I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play right now.
Simon Ennis, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us here on Ultrasonic Film. The film is called The Hobby, Tales from the Tabletop. I highly recommend checking it out. Not only is it a fascinating film about board games, but also humanity as well. Thank you again for joining us here on Ultrasonic Film. Simon, I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, James.